as we once jokingly said, we made a baby. But we can't talk about what this baby is.
Okay, you're going to have to talk a little bit more about this.
Okay. So you, call me in August of last year and was like, hey, do you want to do this thing? And I'm like, fuck it. Like, sure, let's do it. And so we had a camera crew dropped into our lives for 9 months.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, there you go.
Fasten your seatbelt.
So on today's episode of Citizen J Podcast, I get to interview Jillian and Rebecca, and we talk about where the heck we've been this year, why you can't wear crop tops in Birmingham, Alabama, and what's coming up for Citizen J. Let's get to it.
So welcome, Stacy.
Hi.
Let's do this. All right, well, so this episode is going to be different.
Yeah.
A little. Because I think above all the things that we're trying to accomplish with this podcast, being authentic is a huge part of it. And you have taken on the role here at Citizen J Podcast to kind of handle the social media realm that everyone's still trying to figure out. And then you're been hugely helpful with lining up guests and doing the research and figuring out where we want to move as the podcast matures. But you're also one of my closest friends and know all the dirty secrets. So let's do this. You ready?
Yes. Should I be scared?
Don't say anything I told you not to say, all right?
Jesus, okay. Can someone give me that list?
It's a long list. So our connection is the off-road overlanding space. Mm-hmm. If you don't already know that. I think if you follow us on Instagram, that's
we're friends.
Really? Sometimes.
Depends how much you pay me that week.
But what is your role? Let's explain that to the audience. Okay. What is your role, and what are you doing these days?
Oh gosh. Well, this unspoken project that we've done, I don't want to say threw a wrench in, but definitely made me kind of take a bigger look at where I'm at in my life and what things are really important and what aren't important. And I guess all of these things I thought I needed when I was younger to like be happy and feel successful and feel fulfilled, like this year kind of showed that either that's changed or I was horribly wrong, which could be both. And I've gone through that kind of realization before back in college when I like had a crisis and changed my major and thought I was a big failure. But this year I realized I went from someone who cared about like title and prestige at a job to someone who's like, okay, let's figure out a work-life balance. Like your job doesn't define you. Your title at your work doesn't define you. What you do doesn't define you. And that was really hard because being a workaholic, like I jump in head first and have no problems with that. And I think it was just a natural progression. So I ended up quitting my job of almost 6 years, which was amazing. I learned so much from that job, not only about me, but other people, about an industry that I really didn't know was, it's the supply chain industry. So that is an industry that will eat you alive. But I lost my drive to just be in a kind of corporate job. And I don't know if that was a result of what we were doing. Like maybe the drive still would have been there if this wasn't on the horizon. I don't know. But it definitely changed how I look at things. And if you would ask me 5-6 years ago if I would just quit a well-paying job that was stable and good, and I mean, for all intents and purposes, it was a great job, but to just be like, I'm going to go leap and hope that this works out. So ending up here, working with Storyteller and working with you has been quite the turn of events. Yeah. And now I'm in another industry that I don't know anything about, but I love it. I mean, that's where I've thrived, is jumping into things that I can sit and learn and try something new. And I don't know. I'm super grateful for it.
Well, it's fun to watch you because I think that a lot of your organizational skills and some of the business things I see when I see you do really well with this the network and what we're trying to produce as far as gosh, what are we allowed to talk about? Are we giving away the trade secrets?
But well, like branding and an identity, right?
Right.
Like,
and so it's a lot of you're putting together a lot of like ideas and giving life to different, whether it's, let's explore where this is going to go, or let's look into this podcast guest, or is this an angle we want to take? The way you organize that stuff, I do see a lot of like your business skills. And I'm so grateful for that, because I have such an unhinged creative mind. Sometimes it's so hard to get like some structure back. And I desperately need that. And I know the team really appreciates what you've brought to that. So I see these skills that you've brought from previous experiences. But it's fun because I think this is a little bit more freeing in a way, like creatively for you.
Yeah. Well, it's different. I definitely had that freedom previously, but it was logistics and analytics. It wasn't as like artistically creative or on a personal or emotional level of like being able to be creative. So it's a different type of freedom, I think. And it's one that I think I explored a lot more maybe in high school or something, where I was a little bit like more open to being artistic. And to come back to that and be like, oh, I actually really like this. This is fun. I think this is something I want to explore, and I have the opportunity to do it. So I was just like, let's do this. I called my husband. I was like, so I quit my job today. And then I think you were the next phone call. And he was like, okay, how do you feel? And I was like, I'm okay.
There were a lot of tears.
There were a lot of tears.
It was a transition for you.
Yeah, it was.
So, Nikki, you got to tell the Nikki's West story. Or I got to tell it. We'll tell it together.
As a unit.
So this happened yesterday.
Yeah.
We are in the South, and you and I have not spent an extended period of time here.
We stick out like sore thumbs.
Oh, a little bit, I love it. But there is a food scene here, and there is a culture here that is different than anywhere else. So if anyone's from here or spent some time here, I think that's just apparent. So everyone has been trying to kind of give us a flavor of this town. Like, you got to eat here, you got to see this, you got to hang out here.
Yep.
So that's kind of been our experience on our trips here recently.
Yes. So we find out Nikki's West is iconic. Right. It is an iconic Birmingham restaurant. Been around since 1957. Says it on the side of the building.
Well, then it has to.
Yeah. So the entire time we're getting to this place, we're kind of psyching ourselves up to be like, how great is this place going to be? And we get there, and it's kind of everything I thought it was going to be. Like, just old school, been here forever. Like, this place figured out success early, and they never changed.
Well, something about, and I don't know if it's a Southern thing or is it a Birmingham thing, but the meat and three.
I've never heard of that.
I have never heard of that.
So not a California thing.
Not that I've ever experienced.
No, it's not a thing.
Okay.
So,
it's not a thing.
But having, well, not a thing where we're from. So having a like very brief introduction of that. I don't think we'd actually been to one. Like, we were given a menu, and it was like, pick your meat and pick your three. And we're like, what the fuck is that? So we get to this place, and Jill has a crop top on. I have a crop top on. And there's a sign that just says no tank tops. According to Christy, there's also a sign that says no crop tops. I didn't see that. So maybe we had like blinders on or whatever. But like, cool, no tank tops, we're golden. Jill walks in, and if you know how Jill walks, it's always with a purpose. There is always a pep in her step, and it's like a beeline to where, like, there is no bullshit. Like, you do not deviate, you are going there. Jill met her match yesterday. She met her absolute match, because this woman comes out of who knows where. I think she teleported. Like,
I think she saw us coming. She saw us in the parking lot on some like closed circuit television.
Those windows haven't been cleaned in I don't know how long. That can't make that. That was so bad. She just like comes to you here, this tall, and just goes, "Oh no, honey, we can't serve you."
Yeah.
And puts her hand over Jill's stomach.
And I didn't. I was like, I'm absorbing the environment. I'm realizing, there's not a line. Like, great. Like, we're gonna be able to get food right away. And this is all. I just see her like motioning, and I'm literally psychologically preparing for a compliment. And she's like, "I'm not going to serve you dressed like that." And I was like, "What?" And so I think she says it again and references like, "You can't wear that in here." And I absolutely will not serve you. And normally I have no problem with confrontation, no problem with snapping back. I will say there's a certain age
There's a respect
that I will respect. So she did give me pause because she was old. But she walked up and I just like about faced, like turned around. I was like, I'm not eating here. Like I have never been turned away for how I was dressed. That was wild. But you turn around, your face is like, I'm wearing one too.
It's like, how do I hang these jeans up higher and the shirt down lower?
So the game is we're going back today, right? And we're all wearing crop tops. Is that what the whole team is?
Ruha's got to tie his flannel.
I will pay so much money for that.
I don't know. We got to get Russell to do it too, though. Do a little knot on the shirt. We're going back, guys.
We're going back. So, welcome to Birmingham. I'm not sure if that is a universal.
Hey, I respect it though. They were like, nope, don't care about your money. Like, we have a standard here. Like,
we made that comment in the parking lot because, of course, I'm feeling offended, and so I'm spouting off as we're walking back to the car in shame because I've got to save face a little bit, right? Like, how dare they tell me that I can't wear? And then I jokingly was like, I'm offended, and then I immediately corrected myself, and I went, we're in the South. They don't care. They don't care what I think. And to her credit, she's allowed to do whatever she wants. She's a business owner. And if you own something and you want to make whatever rules you want.
You know who she sounds like?
Who does she sound like?
Does anyone have a mirror that I can hold up?
Oh, get out of here.
You just
okay, I met my match, but she's like 40 years older than I am. Got it. Okay. But I will say, as much as we will probably not be returning to that said establishment.
But mad respect.
Yeah, I mean, I stand for her right to do that. And if they don't want to see tank tops. So, I mean, I made sure we're not going back today because I'm going to tank top and a crop top on. Anyway, welcome to Birmingham. I feel like you can't tell the Nikki West story without telling, where did we go next?
The slutty vegan. Which is on the opposite side. I mean, they are on polar opposite sides of town, which was fantastic.
I mean, so we had Dan with us who is a vegan. So it kind of just made us like, well, let's just try a vegan place. But you walk in and you are greeted from the lady behind the counter who just very loudly screams, "What's up, sluts?" And I was like, we're in a different place.
It's like, so my crop top is accepted.
Yeah, well, that's true. Or I'm having like flashbacks to like, am I allowed here? Or whatever.
Oh man, they were great.
That was amazing.
They were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, so slutty vegan.
I mean, 10 out of 10 recommend. The food was actually, for not being a vegan food person, it was good.
I was impressed. Yeah.
Would have been better with a real burger.
Yeah.
But it was good.
Those meatless options. That was
Birmingham.
Yeah, that was day one.
Yeah. So this year has been, as we once jokingly said, we made a baby. But we can't talk about what this baby is.
Okay, you're gonna have to talk a little bit more about this.
Okay. So you call me in August of last year and was like, "Hey, do you want to do this thing?" And I'm like, "Fuck it, like sure, let's do it." And so we had a camera crew dropped into our lives for 9 months.
Yeah,
just kind of like, there you go.
Yeah, I think I invited you on an adventure that we didn't know it was gonna last 9 months.
No. We were supposed to be done in May.
Yeah, remember that?
And then July, and then September.
Yeah, so we basically just made it. It was a full 9 months of being documented.
Shenanigans.
Yeah. Our activities. We invited a camera crew to, I don't know if we invited, we allowed.
We were told.
We were told they were coming. Yeah. But it was presented to us that like, okay, you guys do this thing and we would love to just kind of interject a crew that can capture it. Mm-hmm. And that is totally foreign to us. So we very naively said, yes, sure. Come on, just hang out with us. No big deal.
Can't be that different.
No, we just do us and you just film us. That's no big deal. And honestly, like Liz and I for years had joked previous to this that like when something funny would happen, and of course it's just like either her and I or a very small group of us, and you joke and be like, where's our camera crew? Because this is hysterical. Why aren't we capturing this? So, I mean, we thought we were hysterical.
Apparently someone at Storyteller did too.
Someone did. I thought we were entertaining. But we didn't know what we were getting into just by nature of we couldn't have. But this was a very different experience. And it was wild to go through the process of just getting comfortable with this new reality we had stepped into. Reality. Huh. Because it was like, okay, so is it reality TV? And I mean, that's what the Kardashians and the Housewives and this reality TV
kind of like early 2000s era, like reality was dubbed as those things.
Yeah.
Bravo owned that.
Right. And I think, I mean, initially it was like, we don't want that.
No.
Like, I don't want like, producer imposed drama and scripts that, are like ideas that we're supposed, like, well, can you guys talk about this? Can you try to do this? That would have been inauthentic for us. And authenticity, while it was a big part of my social media stuff and how we present this adventure world, it was going to be a big part. If we're going to do a project like this, authenticity was absolutely going to be important.
Well, we would have never said yes to anything like that.
Right.
Like, that's just so out of the realm of what we're comfortable in. And it's not us. I mean, that would be inauthentic, and that's...
But it was inauthentic. But I think to say like because I think I was really like, I want it to be really authentic. If we're going to do this, it has to be authentic. Not realizing that we would invite, in the beginning, strangers into an incredibly intimate circle.
Yep.
And so that was really challenging for us because we weren't following a script. Granted, we knew there was a plan in place of like what we would do, and we would convey that to our crew, and then they would try to keep up.
Yeah.
But that was incredibly hard because I think we had never done that. We had never, something as simple as like setting up camp and just the personal conversation that we would have back and forth as friends, or making dinner, and then to invite several people that are like kind of in your space, and then be told, but just act normal.
Well, and here's the other thing is, we have no problem interacting with strangers like in the overland community, right? Like, you can go and find them and you can kind of understand what you're about. These are true strangers in it, and we know nothing about their industry and they know nothing about ours.
Yes.
And then doing this was mayhem.
And we did it in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dug out a Forerunner. That wasn't ours. So, like...
Oh, man.
I don't think we have any issues with strangers. We really don't. We're comfortable going and talking to kind of anyone. But that's now really meshing two worlds and trying to figure out, all right, how do we do this? And I think that first episode was absolutely a crash course on that. Like, they were thrown into the deep end just as much as we were. And we came out unharmed, other than your truck. But
oh, my truck.
But the trust that was developed after that, and then our crew was so incredible. We were so lucky. I mean, it was, if there was anyone you wanted as an introduction into that industry, it was who we had.
Yeah.
And that, I think, allowed us to really become vulnerable a lot faster than I think we anticipated we would have. They started to understand us and understand what we were doing. And maybe by the last episode, they like really dialed it.
Right.
So we're like, oh, is this the last one? But I mean, we even made the joke on 2 and 3 of realizing, okay, well, I can't stand here because it'll block this person. So we like kind of naturally picked up where to stand. They naturally picked up where to position themselves. We learned sunglasses are like never wear those. So it was kind of interesting how, in a very unspoken manner, we learned each other's industry in like a massive crash course. But it really, and that is like true reality. No one's telling anyone what to do, where to stand, like other than like when we're firing guns and they're like, you can't stand downrange. Right. You just can't. But it was amazing. And my appreciation for that industry now is greater than anything I ever would have anticipated. Mm-hmm. I think we touched on this yesterday of like, the must be nice to be in this industry. And as great as this opportunity was, like, it definitely wasn't always nice.
Right.
There were definitely times where it's like, what did I get into? And there was a hesitation signing on for 2 through 6 of like, do we really do this?
Well, I want to talk about that hesitation because I think we were like normal people, like never done anything production wise, totally just living life without the idea of being documented in any way at that level.
Yeah.
So those contracts are what we went into as far as like understanding what we were agreeing to for the next several months of our lives. Granted, we had no idea what it was actually going to be, but I think there was such a gravity to we're going to tell this story knowing that this team is going to capture it. And hopefully the story comes out the way we're okay, like something we're okay with. That was uncomfortable.
Well, and we struggled with a lot in the first episode of going into the next one, not seeing a finished product of what we had just done. So we're like, well, did we look okay? Did we do this right? Did we say something dumb? Did Stacey cuss too much? Like, where is this gonna go? And I don't think we had gotten one back by the time we went into two.
I don't remember. No, I think we saw one.
I think we did. I think we got one. And
so,
so that made going into 2 and 3 a lot easier.
It did.
Seeing what we had just finished, because there was this whole like that hesitation came from like, well, I mean, was it even good? Like, are people even gonna like it? And granted, like that's whether or not it's good is not going to change us proceeding with filming, but it definitely changed my ability to go in with a guard lower.
Well, because I think when we finished filming one, and that was a new experience. We had drug a crew out to the middle of nowhere and like was like, hey, survive. And then we're going to do our thing. And then like, but make sure you capture what we're doing. And like all of we made that one difficult. The weather made that one difficult. Everything was difficult. But I really hit the end of that when it was like, cut, we're done, we're wrapped. I was like, this is a failure.
Oh, I remember this.
Oh yeah, that's right. I had a meltdown. I've had a lot. Me and my meltdowns this year.
And we still had to film the next morning. We still had to do the hot spring.
That's right. Yeah. But we sat around that fire and I was like, what have we done? And we've committed to at least like, it was like, we were looking at a handful of more episodes, trips, adventures we were going to do with this crew. And I was like, this was a mistake. I mean, I don't regret that we took a leap, but like my worst fear has happened and we have hit the end of this. And this isn't good.
But I think that came from not knowing the industry, from not knowing what a finished product looks like or how our crew interacts. I think that was just straight inexperience in it.
Completely.
Yeah. But it was totally found. Like it was
because I don't know what the camera is seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was reality for us. We would get lost in what we were doing. We weren't paying attention to what camera was on us and who was capturing what and are they getting this shot?
Yeah.
So you just felt like, oh, we left so much on the table. We didn't capture anything. All the stuff that I thought was important wasn't captured for sure. Like we missed it all.
And it was.
And we saw episode 1 and it was like, this
Jesus.
Yeah. Wow. That's what we do. Yeah. Like that was us. And so that was.
Well, we at least think it's good. We might have a slightly biased opinion of
maybe
that,
a little bit. But I guess it made us comfortable with saying yes to the next episodes, to engaging in another adventure. And they were one-of-a-kind adventures, each one of them. But saying yes to going out with a crew of 15 to 20 people and being like, we're gonna go do this thing together, and I trust you to, like, we're all on the same page. We were in it together, and that's the only way you were able to move forward. But that was uncomfortable at a whole different level for me.
Well, and for me, it helped. My perception of that industry has completely changed, or like how it is as a whole. And you kind of go into it thinking, people are divas, or people are going to be a certain way, or you're going to interact a certain way. And I was very wrong on that. Like, and I think I was very glad I was wrong on that. But we have kind of such this vision of what Hollywood and the TV and film industry is going to be. And ours was nothing like I anticipated it being at all. I mean, we were so lucky in who we had.
Yeah.
Like, it was awesome.
Well, and I really wish that, I think everyone's a little exhausted with reality television, what we've accepted. Again, those reality shows that are out there, that are those binge shows that society just wants, this, like, awful, chaotic content.
I definitely fell for Vanderpump Rules.
Okay, guilty. I mean, I'm not saying I don't fall prey to that as well. It's it's a known algorithm that
Yeah.
people are captured by. And so it's a thing. And it makes sense that it is a thing. But I think it also is like, let's get back to real reality. So we can call things like, because we can't call what we've done reality TV without a big asterisk and being like, but it's actually reality. It's true reality.
Well, we were never asked anything. I mean, the only thing we were maybe ever asked was like, can you just tell us what you're doing? Like, people don't really know what, anyone who's not an overlander is not going to understand what you're doing.
Right.
Because the first direction was, all right, just do your thing. And then we're like, okay, like I crack a beer, Liz is doing like the fairy lights and you're popping your tent. And they're like, it's really quiet. Can you like tell us what you're doing? And it's like, well, you asked us to do us. We don't talk until all of it comes together and we can sit. But if you want us to talk, like we can. So I think, but that was really the most direction I think we ever received, other than like, don't stand there. There was nothing else. So it really is a true reality. There's no drama thrown in anywhere. And I don't know. It was
Well, I think
was a dream
I realized how deep we were into the overland community as well. Because we've been doing this thing for so long, and so much of it is second nature. And I don't feel like I have to explain a definition, or I'd say a phrase and not realize that like half of the words used in that phrase like have special meaning in our community.
like, what do you mean you didn't put the 4Runner in 4-wheel drive in deep sand?
Oh man, that was terrible. It was a lesson for us. I think it made
really
us better
was.
teachers.
Yeah.
It made us better communicators.
Oh, and patience had to go like through the roof.
Yeah. I mean,
As I'm sure it did for them towards us as well. Like, we don't know.
well, we asked a crew that has never driven off-road to go drive in a sand dune.
Yeah.
And then and we were crunched for time, and that whole story, like, we just threw them out there. And then when they got stuck, we're like, how are you stuck?
In their defense, everyone got stuck. We ended up all getting stuck at some point.
Granted, you and I had gone back like 4 times by the time we got
My
stuck.
poor engine was hot. It said no more.
You want to talk about engine problems? Or transfer case problems?
Are you gonna call Mike or?
My vehicle may or may not have been towed out of that sand dune. We'll talk about that later. But it was interesting. It really made us. I like for me, it was I needed to learn how to communicate better. And I think that all of this it's fun to see it all play together in like the growth of just who I am as a person and needing, hey, I'm deficient in that area. I need to get better. And I'm seeing it because I feel like I'm saying all the right words, and yet I'm watching them not land in the person I'm talking to. So it really made us have to like, okay, take a few steps back and let's talk about why we do this, or what are we doing. And then it made us, I think, fine tune for our own minds of why we do this and who we are and the roles we want to take moving forward. Like, this is a great adventure lifestyle, and it's so fun, and it's a hobby, and we know it's a luxury in a sense, right? But there are so many aspects of what we do off-road and this like pushing the limits, being out on our own, knowing that if something happens, we're all we've got.
Yep.
So how have we prepared to handle those situations? So that's just being confident, like self-reliant. It becomes it's so tangible. It's so you understand the importance. There can be phrases and going, you need to be prepared and make sure you know how to do. But when you're out in the middle of nowhere and something, mechanical happens, or there's an injury, or some dude just walks out of the woods, and now, okay, how are we gonna deal with this? Like, those are all like real life situations. I don't know. There's a real life example where we realize I need to get better at that.
Yeah.
And I think that makes us a better person overall.
Yeah, it was a very like humbling, eye-opening
yeah.
experience. But what I
Especially
do love,
when you're not good at things.
I do love that this crew said, and I think we equally did it, but they were like, fuck it, we're along for the ride. Like, let's go. They watching them, like, when we're done rapping, and they're like, did you see what they did today? Or like, I mean, the stories that we would hear the next day of like, they're total badasses. And we're like, are you talking about us? Like, you just did like a backpacking trip in Alaska for 3 weeks. Like,
Right.
you're the badass. So it was amazing how kind of like unifying it was. Or like even hearing stories that they had about experiences. I was like, we're all badasses here. This is amazing.
Right.
That's like a weird phrase that I don't like saying, but like it was what they kept throwing around. And
Yeah.
it was really weird, but I think we acknowledged that they are incredible in their realm just as much as like they thought that about us, which is weird because we're
Well, and we have to note that
But-
for the most part, our crew was all female.
yeah.
So I think we had a sprinkling in of some male testosterone, which was we needed. Absolutely needed. So everyone was a family by the end of this. I think there was, we had some that like, it was a bummer. The only thing I was like bummed about, and this is just production life, is we didn't get to keep the same people because these are individuals that take jobs and we don't hire them for all of it because it's also sporadic. So sometimes people had to take other jobs or were busy. So we didn't get to see everyone all the time, but it was so fun to kind of have a general core group that saw it through start to finish. And these women were amazing.
They were rad.
They did things I
They
didn't
were
know
freaking
existed,
rad.
like creatively, and had these skill sets, and then were just weird like us.
Yeah.
But also weird in their own way.
Yep.
It was, so we would watch them half the time, just like, this is entertainment. This is great.
Watching like the AC, and now we like kind of get some of the terminology, but like watching the ACs with the Apple boxes and just like knowing when to perfectly place it under the camera ops, just like sit. I'm like, you guys are incredible.
Yeah.
Like it's like watching a well choreographed dance of like how they all work and talk and interact, and it was so awesome.
It's a picture of teamwork. And I think I could see that flipped. I could see people watching what we do and be like, oh, well, they function as a team. But it's us and we're in it. And so we don't see it that way. Yeah. So to get to watch the crew was a lot of fun to like, wow. And it has to work that way. Otherwise, because when things would disconnect, you'd watch kind of things like, oh, the frayed ends and like bring it back together. You know,
it looks like a small fire.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. An experience of a lifetime. We made a baby.
We made a baby. That's a baby.
It was sad wrapping though.
I was legitimately depressed when we came home.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that until like afterwards. But I kind of was anticipating it coming because it had been so intense for 9 months. And, as soon as we'd finish one small project, it was like the planning for the next. Oh, yeah. And then we were doing a podcast at the same time. Thanks, guys. No, but it was like, the intensity of our schedule was just, whether it be psychological or physical, it was just a lot. Mm-hmm. So when we came off of that and there was no more production, it was, one, I needed a break physically.
Yeah.
But I also was like, what are we doing? And like, do I want to do anything? I never want to leave the house again. Do I want to travel anymore? I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Like
what a crisis.
But again, that's what, now looking back, I'm like, I think it's just a natural depression that you would have to go through to kind of reset everything. But yeah, it wouldn't change a thing.
Well, and it took a space for us, like a campfire is sacred. And it took a place where we always felt we could be most vulnerable and then record it and potentially share it on a scale that like, that's not something we share typically. Like we'll share a picture or like a moment, but we don't share a conversation there because that's like the Overlander's holy land. Or anyone who does anything outdoor with a campfire, like that is a unifying area where it's kind of like what's said at the campfire stays at the campfire.
Yeah.
And so now that's a very different experience for us. And I think coming to that realization that this is going to be shared. And there were moments for all of us. I cried on camera. Like it was a very, I don't think I've ever been so comfortable with being vulnerable and then having that be brought out in front of a camera crew and something that's going to be shared was really weird. Yeah. I don't really know how else to put it other than it was weird. But that gave us like a platform to develop our friendship because it's so isolating. And this is an experience where unless you're there or unless you're part of that industry, we can't go and share this with someone who doesn't understand it. And they'll never be able to really like empathize or sympathize with that because it's like, well, you had this opportunity to be in front of cameras and in this kind of realm and industry. And like, that's great. It's the opportunity of a lifetime. And don't get me wrong, it absolutely is. But there is a lot of unsaid, like, this kind of sucks.
You're describing being trauma bonded. So we went through.
God.
I didn't coin that phrase. I've heard that before. But I think we went through something difficult. It was an adjustment. There was a lot of stretching as far as our just what we were comfortable with, or just flat out new experiences. And yeah, you're right. There wasn't or isn't a lot of people you can share that experience with. And so it made us kind of link arms and be like, this is you're the only person I can share this experience with fully and honestly, to come out on the other end and for us to be so much stronger than we were.
Yeah. There were some waters being like tested.
Yeah. And for whatever reasons, because of the way our personalities function when together, it just took an episode like it did this year.
Yeah.
Where we were like, all right, we went through the fire. And I think we did. Mm-hmm. I think you and I kind of like had moments where there wasn't anybody else to be completely vulnerable with, and we were there for each other. Yeah. So, well, all that
was
stuff.
Tequila.
All the margaritas. But it was a good year.
You've made a big change, and it's been quite the opportunity, but you now have a podcast that you fly to Birmingham to every 6 weeks. I mean, how has that changed what you do? Or how you...
Thank you for disrupting my life, everyone. I mean, to me, looking back now, I mean, at the time when I started it 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever, it was just to like go out and adventure, to experience what I was doing.
And share your salads.
Sure. There's so many stories we're going to have to go back and...
If anyone wants to know, Jillian's first picture on Instagram is of a salad.
It's not, though. Okay, but that's weird. But when it was just like going out and experiencing life. But through that process, there's been a lot of learning who I am and kind of what's important to me. So this like self-discovery journey that I've been on that now makes sense today. I don't think it made sense while I was going through it. But I kind of hit a peak with social media where it was like, I don't really know what I'm doing here anymore. I'm just old enough where I think it's like, this is silly and feeding a part of my ego that I probably don't want to grow much more. Like this is just a weird thing. And now am I showing off on social media, or like, are we actually sharing? Are we inspiring? What are we doing? Like I want to do something that's going to impact other people, because I think the older you get, as each year goes by, you realize that life is shorter than you thought it was. And not in a like scary way, but you're like, oh, I'm running out of time. Mm-hmm. So as that's kind of like becoming clearer, I think I was looking towards like, I'm going to make a shift. And whether that meant like, I'm going to finally leave California and start homesteading in the middle of nowhere and just like, all right, we're going to try this and move on to a totally different challenge. I'm going to dump social media. I don't need this anymore. I really don't know what I'm doing as far as helping anybody. Right. And then there was kind of this slow evolution of the Ladies' Night Campout, which is our foundation for our relationship. So I'm starting to see this spark happen within the women in the community. So I think that let me like, okay, maybe I'll stick around a little longer, see where this goes. Be an active member in the community, because this is fun. This is fun. Mm-hmm. If this catches fire, this will be a great thing to be a part of. But it still wasn't complete yet. I don't think that cycle had kind of found its purpose yet, for lack of a better word. But then this relationship with Storyteller Network got put in front of me. And gosh, we went through quite a bit of development and figuring out, because I know it was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I suddenly don't know who I am. Like, I don't know what I want.
Crisis of identity.
No one's ever asked me that before. But it forced me to go through a process of like doing my best to figure out who I am and what's important to me and what do I want the future to look like for myself, for the community, for the United States, if we're going to go big. Like, these are all things that I'm a part of. Does it seem crazy that you could influence your country? Absolutely. But it's like, well, you got to try. Mm-hmm. And like, what does that look like? Maybe it's like your small community. Okay, start there. Maybe it's just the ladies in our community. We'll start there. Yeah. Maybe it's just the individual you talk to at lunch. Like all of those things, like putting value on those types of interactions and being purposeful with how you speak to people. So it's been great to kind of go through this process. And out of this, while it, there's what we did last year as far as more of a production and documenting what we do with our trucks and our adventures, and then moving into a podcast setting where doing what I love around the campfire and getting to know people, having really in-depth conversations, really honest conversations, learning to be more honest myself about who I am and my faults and my strengths and being confident with those things. I love communicating with people. So the podcast was like something we had on the back burner, and then like suddenly someone decided to like throw it, like, we're just going to do it right now.
On the heels of just filming.
Right, but you're not busy enough. But it's been I kind of like, you want to strike while the iron is hot kind of a thing. Like while things we're getting inspired and learning things about like, okay, who I am and where that can go and opportunities are showing up. This relationship with Storyteller Network has taken shape. And now I have a podcast, which is crazy. I know there's a million podcasts out there, and we appreciate all of the viewers and listeners out there. No, but it's been so fun to get to do this, and I don't do this alone. I do this with people like you and the entire team. Hi, team. But there's no way I could do, especially at the level of production that we're pulling off for this.
Oh, yeah. Good God.
This is not me. The joke is, when I agreed to a podcast, I really thought, I think this is a joke. It makes me laugh. When I said yes to a podcast, Ruha, I legitimately thought, well, I'll start like every normal podcast starts, and you hit record on your phone and you put it in the middle of the table and you have these great conversations with your friends, and it's fun, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but it doesn't really matter because you're just figuring stuff out. And then maybe you put that online. We agreed to this. We agreed to this.
You bypassed the figuring it out phase.
Yeah. So
very much in Jillian fashion.
Yeah. So why not just jump into the deep end on everything? And it forces you to step up your game. And I have so much to learn. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But it's been really fun. It's really fun to be challenged at a level where you've got a team of people you're working with, and we're having a good time together. And then we get to produce something that I'm generally proud of.
I would hope so.
No, it's great. It feels like I'm so proud of what we're doing. Like, I'm amazing. That's not what but it's like, it's a group effort. It's a team effort. And it's like, wow, like we're doing this thing.
Well, I think for you've done things alone for so long. Like a lot of your foundation and how you've come to be where you are today has just been a result of you kind of doing it by yourself. And obviously, like, you've had partnerships along the way, but not to the extent of this. And so this is also you opening up and kind of relinquishing control to something that you completely owned and had. And that also requires a different level of trust. I mean, we talked about being guarded earlier, and that's a huge shift too.
Yeah. And I think that's opened me up as a human being. And so I'm seeing benefits of that in other areas of my life. But yeah, I think having to work with a team of people and knowing that like that person's an expert in this. Actually, the entire off-camera team is like an expert in their field.
We're the only ones that aren't.
Yeah, we don't know what we're doing. We're just like, hey, we're here.
We don't know what we're doing, but we know we're doing it really, really well.
But it's been a blend. I mean, because I know we have ideas and we have our own identities, which are melding in with this like established professional program. And it's really like, I'm constantly like, I trust the team.
Yeah.
And so I know we have enough trust. I know they wouldn't put me in a bad situation. And then we can and that's such a great relationship, because then we really have this like incredible like freedom too. As long as we get a green light from the executive producer, then we get to do whatever we want.
But sometimes I imagine like before they approach you, there's this board of people on this board, and they're like, all right, who is crazy enough to say this? Okay, that one.
Me. I'm crazy. Yeah, I don't. That's what it is. You just picked the craziest one, didn't you?
That one jumps in head first.
It's been fun though. Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of fun. I think we've always kind of known we're a little different in our own like individual ways. Like sometimes you don't feel like you always fit in. So it's fun when things start moving, there's momentum, and you feel like, oh, I'm weird for this reason. Got it. Okay, I can do that. Like I can own it now.
Yeah.
So Welcome to getting older. It's fun.
Were you afraid of saying yes to this whole thing? I mean, was there
Absolutely.
anything that you were
Absolutely.
like, did you have to talk yourself into doing this? Because it's an incredible opportunity where it's one where you're like, you'd be dumb to say no. But also, like,
You'd be
It's
dumb to
scary.
say no that was like a mantra for a while.
yeah.
Because I think the conversation, I mean, what I was presented with was you have a platform where Instagram is self-promotion. You're promoting what you do, your life, your lifestyle. We're going to put you on an even bigger platform, in theory, at least when that was all put out there. I think there's a real danger with elevating yourself, and not in a danger like it's all bad all the time. But I think as humans, we run the risk. Fame does weird things to people. And not that I'm famous, but like when you're asking to be put like in a position of, I'm going to host something, or we're going to create
Or the
this
subject of something.
to be on a bigger platform, there's a risk to my psychology and getting weird with that type of an environment and people talking to you differently or treating you differently. And I didn't know if that was something that I wanted to expose myself to. Because you kind of, like, your own shortcomings.
Limitations. And
Yeah. And it was like, okay, I'm either going to be strong enough to handle this and it's going to be a great thing, or I'm going to step into this role and fail miserably and like just blow up my life and become someone I don't like.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely a big concern. But back to having a really solid team. I mean, it took several months of a lot of conversations with everybody and really understanding that we all have everyone's best interest. And they're not going to, to the best of their abilities, they're not going to put me in a position where I would become those things.
Yeah.
But that takes a lot of, like, that's just not something you go, okay, yeah, you're a good person. Great. Like,
Right.
we'll make this agreement. That took time. So yeah, there was a desire to say no, but I just have to keep telling myself, like, this would be so stupid to say no to.
Yeah.
Like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime, and it really was. And if this all disappeared tomorrow, I don't have any regrets for the decisions that we've made at this point.
Right.
It's just been like, what an adventure, what an experience. I know we walked away from the project we did this year. Like, that changed our lives. Yours, very literally.
Yeah.
But that experience and exposure to that, just the production and everything that we were doing,
That should put me in therapy.
it really did. But it stretched us in such a way that it forced us, I think, to acknowledge a lot of aspects of our personalities and our lives that needed to be dealt with. And I think we're still dealing with a lot of that, adjusting to the new people we are on the other side of this whole thing.
Well, and it forced us to look at our circle and who's in it and what roles people play in it or don't play. And or maybe our values changed on a relationship, or how we interact with people is different, or our conversations are different. And I think that really forced our hand too. It's just, this took a lot of kind of looking in the mirror.
It was stressful too, man. It was really stressful. There was a lot of moments.
I haven't cried that much this year. Or I haven't cried as much as I have this year in a long time.
Yeah.
And the tears just kind of came out of nowhere.
But I think all of that was therapy. Again, this was a big growth year for both of us. It was a lot of having to acknowledge and see things and feel we had to deal with stuff that was coming at us. And that was hard. I know. I think we cried way too much this year. We cannot cry for 5 more years.
Typically at bars.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. And I know this has been, us sitting down and talking on the podcast specifically has been kind of a work in progress. Lots of stops and starts. And but I love working with you. And I think what I would love to do this again with you, because I think this allows me to kind of speak to what we're going through, which for me is a huge part of the authenticity of the brand of whatever we're doing. Because I think that's valuable, to be honest with those that are watching. I mean, in the social media era, we're all looking for the perfection, or we post the perfection.
Right.
We post the pretty
It's
things.
the Instagram versus reality reels.
Right,
So, yeah.
right. And while we all understand why that exists, and I'm not faulting anybody that does that, but I do think that shedding light from time to time on reality and what it really takes to get what we're doing, and all of us are going to be different. But this environment with you, I would love to do this again with you, because I love our chemistry. I love working with you.
Yeah.
But I also think it's fun to share, like, kind of the, I don't know, it's like the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like, this happened, but this is what we were really thinking.
Well, and we're still in growth mode. We're still figuring out like changes and
Totally.
getting through these kinks and what works and what doesn't work. And it's going to be a process. So the next time we do another one of these sessions with other people, it's going to be very different from what this one looks like. I mean, this one already looks different from the last one.
Totally.
So
Well, and I think too, like, the podcast is not without intention. This isn't just us sitting here talking with people and just about, well, whatever we capture. Like,
Right.
I think there's been a lot of, the whole team has really worked towards creating conversations, sharing those conversations with our audience that will impact our community and society. And whether we're doing it or not, we're trying to, like, to impact each other.
Yeah.
Because I think there's been such a great impact for how we've learned to communicate with each other and with others. So it's fun to go through this learning process, but also to get to share it with everybody. So let's do this. I want to do this again.
okay.
So we'll just keep doing it.
Yeah, that works. So I'll see you in like a couple months or something.
No, I'll see you like tomorrow.
Yeah. Anyway.
And Mike Glover, sorry, we definitely ran out of time.